Welcome to the Cast Iron Strength Podcast, your go-to source for no-nonsense, straight-talking strength training and performance solutions that work. Now, introducing your host, Mark Keys.
Hello and welcome to episode 124 of the Cast Iron Strength Podcast. Today's question comes from the overspill of questions we got for the live Q&A session that I did with the two guys at ATS, or the lads at ATS, Will and John. We live streamed that on Facebook, so if you want to go and check that out, you can go check out the Cast Iron Strength Facebook page. Today's question comes from Instagram, sliding on up in the DMs. When my squat gets heavy, I tend to load my quads, and by a certain weight, this makes me fold and turn it into a good morning. How can I avoid this? Is there a good assistance exercise or exercises? I suspect it's weak glutes because my Romanian and sumo from blocks are pretty shit. Okay, so what we're talking about here is we're talking about a lifter who has a has a really good deadlift relative to their squat, and they're a bit more of a low bar squatter, but they struggle to maintain a more upright posture than is probably ideal based off what we're getting there in the questions, and also know the lifter who slid up into the DMs. So we're going to break this down. It's not going to be as simple as derp, do some fucking RDLs, derp, some front squats, derp. There's a few things going on, and we're just going to pick it apart a wee bit. Okay, so the first thing you need to ascertain, or you need to understand, if you are in fact destined to be a bent over squatter. There are some people on this planet, God bless them, shout out to Mark Ripto, who are destined to squat more incline than others. If you have particularly long femur and long torso, so someone who would be typically really good conventional deadlifter, they're going to struggle to maintain an upright posture or to brace an upright posture when squatting, because they have to displace their hips somewhere, and they also have a lot of femur to displace. So for someone who has a short femur and a long torso, the stereotypical squatter build, they don't really have to displace their hips anywhere, because they have that short femur. They basically bend their knees, and their hips are going to stay close to the center line of the bar. So they're going to have a nice balanced position, a nice balanced upright position, and they're naturally going to squat like that. That lifter, however, is going to have very little tolerance for grinding or for falling out of line. So that's typically the sort of lifter you'll see. Typically, weightlifters tend to fall into that build, or at least the better weightlifters tend to fall into that body shape, where you'll see them smashing out big squats, never grind, and then you add an or 2 kilos to the bar, and there's no grind. They can't get out of the shit. They can't get out of there. And so your stereotypical squatters build, that is a short femur and a long femur, is probably the opposite to this other kind of build, which is not stereotypical, but someone who's more suited towards conventional deadlift. They're going to have a long femur, and they're also going to have a long torso. And they're going to have a really big conventional deadlift because they can produce a fuckload of torque off the floor because they're working with those big old levers. And conversely, though, they need to get rid of it. So basically, when we're squatting, the squat's a balancing act. So the first thing we need to understand when we talk about squat is to have a visual representation or in our head, have what it looks like from the side. If you draw a stick man, if the stick man has a long leg and the stick man has a long torso, there's no real getting rid of that hip angle. You can't, if you have loads of knee travel, the hips are still going to be far away because you have a long back. So that for that person is an issue, to displace their torso, to displace their femurs, or to move their femurs in such a way that when we watch from the side, that the bar remains over the middle of the foot so that the movement is balanced, but also the hips staying close to the barbell, or as close to the barbell as they can get it. The further away your hips are from the bar, typically the more you're going to struggle to be upright because you need to fold, and you can't fold with an upright back if the 2 points if the fulcrum or the balance points, they're all far away from the center line. So if the knees are far away from the center line and the hips are far away from the center line, and the center line is your ankle or the middle of your foot, we should say, there is no real neat way to fold that upright. You're going to have to bend over. So there are some people who are naturally predisposed to leaning forward when they squat. So a good examples of that is probably Jesse Norris is probably the best kind of archetypical or the best kind of example of that build of person. And Jesse Norris is obviously obscenely strong. And he has a huge deadlift, also has a huge back squat because he is a fucking beast. He's got strong as fuck glutes, strong as fuck lower back, strong as fuck quads, strong as fuck upper back, and he can haul ass through those movements and shift a lot of weight. Like, not all of us are as gifted with long muscle bellies, lots of muscle, big cross-sectional area, lots of fast twitch muscle fibers, yada yada. Not all of us have Jesse Norris's build-up or Jesse Norris's makeup. There are some of us who have a similar sort of torso and femur length issue, or maybe not issue, arrangement, and we can't produce that position, or we can't produce those loads because we don't have the muscle mass, we don't have the fiber recruitment, we don't have the testosterone levels. We just ain't built like Jesse, so we can't really shift the same thing. You might have a massive deadlift or a relatively massive deadlift and a shit squat. So what can we do about this? Well, first of all, like we're saying beforehand, you need to kind of understand if that is you. So what you can do is you can try front squat, you can try high bar squat, and you can try overhead squat, and have a look at the positions you're moving through in those movements. Overhead squat is a good one. If you keep the barbell or the weight of the bar or the balance of the barbell over the middle of your foot, and you video it from the side, if you don't stack up quite well, if you still have quite a lot of forward lean, and you also have a lot of knee displacement, so if you are getting your knees out over your toes, you are getting the knees well out forward of the toes, you are trying to push steps forward, but you still have a significant trunk lean, chances are, regardless of where you put the bar, you're going to have forward lean. So we just need to have a look at you need to look at your squats. Zombie squats are a good one. You just need to have a look at how you're built. See if with movements like zombie squat, overhead squat, but if you can change your stance width, if you can change how you push your knees out or forward, if you can change how you sit back or forward, if you can change the balance point in the movement so that you have a reasonably upright torso and the hips are reasonably close to within the bar. Sorry, if your hips are relatively close to where the bar is, or if they're relatively close to where the middle of your foot is during the entire movement, you can have a fairly decent level of certainty that you could probably achieve a more upright torso, and that you're maybe the reason you're leaning over in the squat is something else. So first of all, you need to have a look at your squats using different squatting drills just to see what happens, how you fold down. If you still fold down with a significant trunk lean and your hips are still fairly far away to the bar, your hips are still reasonably far away from the middle of your foot, and you're pushing your knees out of your toes, and you're doing all the things right, you're keeping a stiff back, blah blah blah. If you're ticking all the boxes when it comes to a squat pattern and your hips are still relatively far away from the bar, then you're destined to have a significant amount of trunk lean as you squat, and there's not really much we could do outside of cutting a bit off your femur, but then that would take weight off your conventional deadlift. I'm sure you probably don't want to do that. So once you've had a look at that, the next thing to do is to look at your bar position. So probably the next kind of most common problem I see with people who squat, who lean over when they squat, they're maybe not the most common problem, but what I see a lot with lifters who adopt more of a trunk lean is that they have the bar too low on their back and it rolls around. So basically, you should be looking to put the bar should sit in or nestle in into the subscap ridge. So if you poke around your upper back, you'll feel a bony landmark that goes across the length of your shoulders. That's basically the end of the thoracic spine, or around the end of the thoracic spine. It's the top of your scapula. If you can if they put the bar there, one, it's got a ridge it's going to nestle into, so it's not going to roll around. But two, it's also up on the meaty part of the back, so you have the upper traps, lower traps, delts, lats, rhomboids. All of the musculature around the upper back can contract into the barbell. The further away from that bony landmark you go, the further up on your neck you are, and the less ability you have to wrestle with the bar if things come out of line, or you can exert less force into the bar as you stand up. You're less connected to the bar. But also, if you go below that line, basically the bar is actually on your back. It's not actually digging into anything. So if you're the sort of person that gets a fuckload of pain and pressure through your wrists and your elbows, and you also really struggle to get any kind of consistency with your squat, the bar is probably too low. The bar should not roll around on your back. It should stay put. So you should be looking to put it up on the bony ridge, right on the subscapular ridge. So if you've done a bit of screening, you're fairly certain that you're meant to have a forward lean. You've put the bar now up on the correct spot, up on the bony ridge, the subscap. Then now we're dealing with what should be now we're a bit more sure that we have a more stable execution. We understand what we're trying to do. We know we're going to lean over due to our levers. We know the bar's in the correct place. It's not going to roll around, and we can kind of change things with our technique to make sure that we then can get a good squat. The next thing that we need to do is we need to try and video from the side and have a look at our bar path. Is it straight up and down, and where is it in relation to the middle of your foot? If you have a good bar travel straight up and down, and the weight of the bar or the direct line of pull, if you draw a straight line through the bar, it intersects the middle of your foot, or typically where the top of your laces are tied, then you probably have a pretty decent squat when it comes to leverages. So then the final bit of the puzzle, if we look at that and that's not the case, so if we look at that, if the weight's forward, so the barbell is constantly forward of your foot, or if we find we have an erratic bar path that kind of the bar goes down like kind of a forward diagonal line, or it goes down in a backwards diagonal line, or it's not staying centered over the middle of the foot, there's balance issues forward or back of that line, then we need to look at the execution of the squat and try and make sure that as much as is feasible, we are keeping the line of the bar over the middle of the foot. And that can be done with various different drills. We're not really going to go into it because we could write a book on it. Literally, I'm doing that. So when we get into that position where we know that we're probably going to lean forward, we know that we have the bar in the correct position, we know that our bar path is fairly good. The next part of the puzzle is the core. So we look at, if you look at yourself squatting, or when we're squatting, and you set the depth and you crumple, so you tuck, or when you bite up into the bar, when you stand up into the bar, you collapse your spine, or you go into the dog taking a shit technique, then we know we have issues. We have recruitment issues, or we have a skill issue. And then the next thing that we need to do along with that is that we need to go back to positional drills such as box squats, less so kind of front squats. There's a really good couple of drills that involve a broomstick and a box. So the first one is you take a broomstick and you hold it across your back. So the base of the broomstick should be right in your sacrum, or right into your tailbone, or at the bottom of your spine, or at the top of your pelvis. And the top of the broomstick should be contacting your thoracic spine and also your head. From there, you're just going to do a squat to a box. The box should be above parallel. You're going to sit down, tap the box, graze the box with your arse, and then stand up. And at no point should either of those contact points of the broomstick and your body come apart. If you can do that, if you can squat to a box with those contact points together, then we know that we have a good spine position to that depth. We're not losing that position. The next thing is, after you've done a few sets of that, you're fairly sure you have the execution, the bracing, the movement pattern correct, is to take a barbell, put it on your back, and then think about bending the barbell around your head and to go through the same process to brace, reach back, control the range, tap the box and come up. And all that's doing is going to teach you how to move within a confined space with good recruitment, good bracing, good core recruitment, good glute recruitment to make sure that your spine remains in the same position through the whole movement, and the movement is coming through the knee, the ankle, the hip, and not from the spine. Once you can do that, then you can add in some pause squats, focusing on the same points to the below parallel, and you can use that to work on your ability to hold your integrity. If you're sitting, so if you're fulfilling the following criteria, if you're squatting or if you're folding down in a way that makes sense for your build, so how someone with a long femur and a short torso and someone with a short femur and a long torso, I've completely fucked that up, haven't I? If someone has a short femur and a long torso versus someone who has long femur and long torso relative to each other, how they fold down together is going to be different, and how we get that person, those two people to squat, is going to be different. I'm not expecting the same movement patterns from both of these people. What I'm looking for from when I look at someone squat, what I'm looking for is I'm looking for them to be balanced through the whole movement, for them to be controlled as much as possible through the whole movement, for them to maintain their core integrity, for them to maintain their core position through the whole movement, for the lowering portion of the lift to be under control, for the lifting portion, the concentric portion, to be as explosive as possible, for the bar to rise first out of the bottom, for the line of pull or for the weight of the barbell to be over their midfoot the entire time. If they're doing all of these things, then they're going to have a good squat. Some people are going to be really upright as they do that. Some people are going to be less upright as they do that. So that's kind of like into the once you kind of went into that detail, and you've looked and you've ticked all those boxes, and you're going to find you're falling down somewhere. It's not going to be you're doing all of these things correctly, and then you're still falling forward. You're falling forward with something up, so you need to break it down and look at it with a critical eye and find out what's up and where you're going wrong. Once you have that identified, then you can look to address it. Outside of that, just postural strength is important. So you've already come on to what would be the exercise selection. So once you have the big brick in place, the big brick is doing the analysis, finding out where the gap in your execution lies, and then addressing that gap directly. Then we can look at things that are going to challenge your ability to produce that. So we're looking at front squats, overhead squats, pause squats, tempo squats, squats against bands, squats against chains. Bands are better than chains because they'll make the line of pull a lot more relevant to you. We're looking at a fair amount of core work, so bird dogs, curl ups, side planks. Those all put into your warm-up routine, even into your daily routine, develop the core endurance required to execute day-to-day tasks and training tasks. Looking at more robust core training, weighted carries, farmers walks. Weighted carries are unilateral in nature. Waiters carries, one-handed farmers walks. Looking at a bit more dynamic stability exercise, throw the pot, things of that nature where we're maintaining core stability, we're maintaining spinal integrity, but challenging it in different ways. But before we move on to those tasks, we need to be good at the kind of foundational movements, which are known as the big three. So bring them into your warm-up and have that as part of your routine. After that, then just having back strength, anterior core strength, aka the back, posterior, like the glutes, hamstrings, but in extension. So exercise. So I've played around with a bunch of different exercises with my lifters. Barbell hip thrust, fucking waste of time for squats and deadlifts. You're gonna get no carryover from it. It might be a great glute exercise, but when it comes to what we do in lifting, which is hip extension against a load that is either in our hands or on top of our back, you're going to get fuck all carryover from that. What we're looking at more is we're looking at things like pull-throughs, which replicate what we're doing. We're looking at RDLs, stuff like a deadlift, which replicate what we're doing. We're looking at hypers, reverse hypers, which fairly replicate what we're doing. And then heavy core stability exercises where we fight flexion, such as weighted planks, any kind of like weighted extension against a weight. So weighted hypers are a good one. Maybe reverse hypers to a lesser extent. Kettlebell swings maybe could follow into that. That better exercises, but we're basically looking to build up the muscles of the glutes, the muscles of the lower back, upper back. So rows, pull downs, pull ups are all very important to have like a nice meaty upper back to give us a lot of room to play with. We're looking for a nice syllable of exercises that should be in the program anyway. There shouldn't be a lifter on this planet who doesn't have some kind of pull up or some kind of pull down, some kind of row, some kind of stability work, whether that's a plank or a rollout or whatever, some kind of weighted extension work such as an RDL or a hyper or a good morning. There isn't a well-developed program on this planet that does not have those parts in play, that doesn't have the basic conditioning that we need to have as lifters, whether we're weightlifters or whether we're CrossFitters or whether we're powerlifters. We all need to be conditioned well in these areas. It doesn't really exist a program that doesn't have them. So what we need to do is we need to get the big brick in place. And that big brick is to do the analysis, to find out where we're falling down, to then from that analysis to address that with skill learning and deliberate practice that is going to challenge that to help us develop our skill, but also to put the skill under fire so that when we're put under pressure, we can replicate the skill the way it should be done. And then we need a good program after that that's going to develop our physical literacy and our muscular conditioning in a way that is relevant to powerlifting or to weightlifting or to whatever the task is. Hopefully that's answered your question. Thank you very much for listening. My name is Mark Keys. You're listening to the Cast Iron Strength Podcast. If you want to shoot me an email, it's markkeys@gmail.com, markkeys@gmail.com. If you want to blow up my celly, 079-17808-237. WhatsApp's the best way to get hold of me if you want some kind of answer. Slide up into the DMs on Instagram, Facebook, both at Cast Iron Strength. Catch me on YouTube, speedpowerperformance@gmail.com. You catch me on YouTube at speedpowerfitness. Gotta change that to Cast Iron Strength. Fucking stupid motherfucker having it as that. Thank you very much for listening. Hopefully my sultry tones have brought you some knowledge from which you can use to further your lifting cause. I'll catch you in the next episode of the Cast Iron Strength Podcast. Thank you. Have a great day. And I'll catch you in the next one. Goodbye.